Hello humans and other species, I'm Betsy, and happy Halloween y'all! Happy Halloween! It might come as a surprise to no one really, but I love the season. Autumn is such a vibe, as the cool kids would say, and Halloween can be a really fun time to spend with friends and family. So in the spirit of the holiday, we are going to check 10 little pranks to mess with your friends. A little bit of a disclaimer for this. Obviously, try to only mess with those that will be a good sport about it. Maybe ask them before starting to mess with people's bases, and of course, don't be annoying those that don't want to be messed with. This is to have a little fun. We don't want to be bothering others with unwanted pranks. So with that in mind, let's get into the first prank. The fake lava pit. The idea is quite self-explanatory. We want to do this to someone who has a fairly basic interior, or at least that it doesn't have too much furniture and things on the floor. The idea is that we want to remove the floor using 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬, so they end up falling into a pit that we will dig later on. And thankfully for us, removing the floor is super easy with the help of the 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝐬 mod. The first thing we need is a way to trigger the mechanism. And this barrel on the ground will be perfect for it. You can even place a barrel yourselves if they don't have any. I'm sure we are all too curious to not check why is there a random new barrel in our houses. The important part is that we don't want things to be seen from the outside, otherwise it will really be suspicious. Let's start by digging a hole near the barrel we want to use. Now that we have access to the barrel, we go ahead and place an observer facing up. That should send a signal downwards whenever the barrel gets accessed. We're going to place a few blocks like so to redirect the signal, and another at the side for the minecart. Next we need to bring power to this section. If you are in survival, which I assume you will, then you will have to extend some shafts underneath, all the way to your friend's house. And I do recommend it having a fast speed so the mechanism triggers quicker. Then we place a clutch in front of the observer, and the deployer attached to it. Then a pulse extender facing the clutch, with a length of 3 ticks, and the signal reversed. Do make sure the clutch is locked with the deployer retracted. It's a simple setup, but in case you need a different angle, this is how it should be looking thus far. Now we place the rail, the cart assembler, which we want to immediately change the setting to lock rotation. And we place a minecart on it. The next step is to glue all this floor. But do keep in mind that the barrel needs to be outside of the glued section. We want everything but the barrel to be part of the contraption. So I'm going to start at the grindstone and pretty much take the entire floor. Then the last corner without touching the barrel. Now we connect the floor with the cart and the gluing should be done. We power up the cart assembler. And we pick up the contraption. Then place the minecart back into place on a clean rail. It's quite hard to tell that this is a minecart contraption and not real blocks, especially since most things should work just the same. The only tell is that some things will look slightly taller, but you really need to start counting pixels to notice it. The last part is to add a wrench to the deployer. So place a hopper on the side and simply add a wrench to it. Even if it doesn't say on the deployer, the wrench should be there. At this stage, the mechanism should be primed and ready, but we can always test it by accessing the barrel from here. The floor is completely gone, but of course we haven't made a pit for it yet. This part will likely be longer to do in survival, but we essentially just want them to fall for a little bit. It doesn't need to be too deep. Then we fill up the bottom with water. Of course, we don't want to kill anyone with this. Then add a row of signs a couple of blocks above the water, and a layer of lava above the signs. The idea is to scare them a bit, making them think they are going to die, but of course, it's just a little jump scare. Now we just need to hide somewhere and wait for our unsuspecting victim. Oh, this is such a nice day to eat some honeyed apples, isn't it? I'm going to put them on my barrel to eat them later. Oh no, someone help. Oh, never mind. I'm still alive. And if your friends are a bit more expressive than me, hopefully you all can have a little laugh with this silly prank. But this raises the question, what other things can be done with this minecart mechanic? So let me show you. The poke-through wall. The idea here is even more simple. The bottom barrel is a minecart contraption. It's a bit noticeable, of course, but we could align it better if we wanted, and the idea is that people usually storm into their storage areas without paying much attention. But the reason why minecart contraptions are interesting is because there are certain things that can go through them. For example, we have a mechanical piston hiding at the back of the barrel, and both the piston and the shafts will go through the contraption just fine. So if we were to wire up the barrel above, for example, we could have a little shaft poking us through the wall every time we try to access the barrel. This can be achieved with an observer looking at the barrel like before. And we are using the redstone links so we can properly hide things underground. The circuit is as follows. We have a latch to prevent the observer from double firing, a pulse to convert the continuous signal into a pulse obviously, and an extender with reverse signal and a duration of 12 ticks, which for our case is the perfect duration for the piston length that we are using here. That's hooked into a gear shift, which will move backwards and forwards depending on the signal it's receiving. That's how we can make it so it retracts the shaft to poke us every time we try to access the barrel. Just need to pray that your friend isn't too observant about the new addition we made to the side of their tower. Or maybe that they live underground and it doesn't matter what we add to the walls. But since we haven't tortured our tower friend enough, why not add a dispenser filled with slowness potions under their door? We can add a minecart to the side of it and glue the block right under the door. That way, every time the dispenser triggers, it will also trigger the cart, so the potions will be able to go through the floor and hit them directly as they go across. And if that isn't enough to tortoise them with my carts, what about adding the exact same system, but this time connected to a 1-minute timer, with the dispenser filled with chicken eggs? That way, we can slowly spam chickens from underneath without them ever noticing. And if they happen to be completely oblivious or go AFK for a long time at their house, well, they might wish they haven't. Or who knows, maybe they needed the food anyway. But minecart contraptions can be used for even more things, because they also allow through the effects of encased fans. With the same idea as before, we can add a row of observers under someone's barrels, and hook that up to a minecart that is glued to the entire floor. That way they cannot tell something fishy is going on. But the moment they access one of the barrels, they will be greeted with some nice blindness and a spam of particles to make things worse. And like any good TV commercial, wait, there is more. Because we can combine the minecart mechanics with the schematic cannon to make quite a fun trap that can be made to be impossible to escape. The idea here is that the blocks that are part of a minecart contraption cannot be broken. So if we make a pit where the walls are all part of a minecart contraption, we can't really do a whole lot to get out of it. Just need to make sure that the victim of the prank cannot reach the cart. Otherwise, it can be broken through the contraption, and it will ruin the fun. There are also 2 other ways to escape this trap, but I'm not going to explain how those work. I want to see if there is anyone in the comments that knows those tricks. The other half of this trap is obviously the broken portal, which is super easy to do. All we need is to take a normal nether portal. Then we want to make a schematic with at least 1 block at either side of it, and the rest of the blocks that will touch the portal itself need to be air. We save the schematic with whatever name we want. Then we proceed to place it below the portal, making sure that the empty spaces are overlapping the blocks we want to remove. We give that schematic to a cannon, making sure we have the materials to build it. It's super important that the cannon is set to replace solid with empty. This basically means that if the schematic has air blocks, it will remove all of the blocks that those occupy. So if we fire the cannon, we can see how it's removing the bottom part of the portal. And why does that even work, I hear you asking? Because the cannon doesn't update block states, so the portal didn't realize that it got broken. Of course, it instantly breaks if we update it in any way, so be sure to be careful with that. Another silly prank we can do is to mess with that friend that always has way too many barrels, especially if they are never organized. The idea is to mix up inputs and outputs so some of the barrels will start to lose their items. Some will simply fall down into the next funnel, but we can add a layer of depots at the bottom. Then we grab a mechanical arm and select all of those depots as outputs, and all of the input funnels as inputs obviously. If they ever happen to deposit the items in one of those bottom barrels, they will start to find their items all over the place. This is just an idea of how it could be done, which will obviously depend a lot on what storage system they have. But if you happen to have access to storage mods, you can mess with them a whole lot more than this. The last little prank will only apply if you are a server owner. This is my server, which of course you can join by becoming a coffee member, links in the description. I mean, I gotta plug stuff where I can, guys. But anyway, why not take the town at spawn where my supporters have been building for weeks and months? And maybe add a few TNT here and there? A little bit of gunpowder never killed anyone, right? I mean, it's just a prank. I'm sure no one will mind some redecoration. Maybe a few more for good measure. Well, that was intense. Now we take the recording and we upload it to the members' Discord section. I'm sure they're gonna find it so funny when they see their town destroyed. But these are the 10 silly pranks ideas to mess around with your friends. I hope you have fun using some of those, and maybe even let me know in the comments if you used any and how did it go. Now I just need to roll the backup and recover the mess I have made with all that TNT. Editor Batsy, we made a backup, right? Editor Batsy? Batsy?